Hey guys, this is day 7. We're going to talk about solving inequalities. So once again, still some more review, but definitely probably something that slipped your mind a little. So we're going to cover it in this video. This warm-up is stuff we've already been talking about throughout this unit. So you guys are going to do that in class as some practice. I'm going to jump right into some notes here. So when we talk about interval notation, we're going to see that a lot in inequalities. The directions, for instance, down here say graph the solutions on a number line and then express an answer in interval notation. Okay, so when we think about what interval notation is, you guys will see things like brackets, okay, or parentheses. You might see a parenthesis with the bracket, right? There's all kind of different options here. And they should look familiar to you, but we're going to just talk about what these mean, okay? So the brackets mean including the end values. So you're going to use a bracket when there is a symbol like greater than or equal to or less than or equal to, right? If I'm saying equal to, then it's getting included, so you're going to use a bracket, okay? In terms of inequalities, when I graph my number lines, this means I'm going to have a closed circle because I'm including that value, okay? Something with parentheses, okay? Let's say a lot of times you'll see infinity always has a parenthesis because you can't actually include it, right? This is not including end values. So you're going to use parentheses when you have a less than or, let me write or so we don't get confused. Okay, less than or greater than. Okay, it doesn't include the value because it is, right, not the equal to as well. Now, when we use a mix, right, for instance, I would think about this. I'm going to put an actual number in here, right? Infinity, let's put negative infinity and 7, right? This would mean that the solution is everything from negative infinity up to and including, right, because of the bracket, 7. Okay. I'm going to put a little note down here, always use parentheses with negative infinity or positive infinity, right? We can never actually get to infinity, so that's always going to have a parenthesis. Now, this will probably make a little more sense when I actually throw some numbers in there. So let's look at some problems. So solving inequalities, I'm going to go through 2 examples with you guys, okay? Should be review. Now, when we think about an inequality, our first step is still just to get x by itself, right? So it's no different than an equation. So what I'm going to do in number 1 is I'm going to try to get x on one side of the inequality. So I'm going to add 21 here. Okay, and I'm going to have 2x plus 12 is less than 5x. Then I want to subtract the 2x to the other side, right? So 12 is less than 3x. Now let's just solve for x like we would with an equation, right? I would divide by 3. So 4 is less than x. Now, when I think about this in terms of an inequality, my actual solution set, right, I want to graph it and I also want to put it in interval notation. So this is the same thing as x is greater than 4. So any solution that's bigger than 4 would work. Now, when I write a number line, I'm going to put a couple, hash marks on here. I always put my solution in the middle. You guys don't have to, right? There's my boundary point of x greater than 4. And I have 5, 6, 7 on the right, 3, 2, 1 on the left. Now, what I want to do is think about, I'm not including the 4, right? It's only a greater than symbol. So I'm going to have an open circle on 4. And then x is anything greater than that, so I'm going to shade in to the right. Okay? So there's my number line. Now all I have left to do is express it in interval notation. So in your interval notation, you always have in your parentheses or your brackets the least or the smallest number and then the greatest number on the right. So when I look at my number line, 4 is the biggest thing that's I have either circled, right, or shaded in. Or sorry, the smallest thing I have either circled or shaded in. So that's going to be the first number I write down in my interval notation. And I go all the way to infinity, right? I shaded to the right, so that's positive infinity. Now you just have to think about, do I give it parentheses or brackets, right? So I'm not including 4 because it's only greater than. So that's a parenthesis, and my infinity also always gets a parenthesis on there, okay? Now, the tricky thing with inequalities is most of you guys are probably thinking, when do I flip the sign, right? We only flip the sign if I multiply or divide by a negative. So subtracting there did not count for flipping my sign. It's only if you're multiplying or dividing by a negative. Okay. So the only example you guys are going to see that in is example 5. So let's go over it. When I see something like distributive property here in my -2 times x minus 2, right, I have to simplify that just like an equation before I can do anything else. So I'm going to have x minus 2x plus 4 less than or equal to 2. And now I just want to combine my terms so I can get x by itself. So x minus 2x is going to give me a negative x. And I'm just going to go ahead in this step and move the 4 over to the right side, right? And that's going to be -2. So here is where I'm going to have to flip my sign because I don't care about negative x. I care about x, right? So if I'm dividing by -1 to just get a positive x on the left, I'm now dividing by a negative, right? And we said when you divide by a negative or multiply by a negative, you flip the sign. So this sign now gets flipped around and x is greater than or equal to 2, okay? Now we have to do our number line and our interval notation. So I'm going to put 2 in the middle, put a couple more points on either side. Okay, 1, 0. And I'm going to go ahead and fill this in. Now, I'm looking at the number 2 because that's my boundary point here. However, I have greater than or equal to. So instead of an open circle, I'm going to put a closed circle. Okay. And x is greater than that, so I'm going to shade in to the right. Okay. When I look at my interval notation, 2 is the smallest number that I have shaded in, right? So I'm going to have 2, and I'm going all the way to infinity. Now we just have to decide on the brackets or the parentheses. Well, I am including 2. 2 would be a solution, right? So I'm going to bracket that 2, and I'm going to always put parentheses with infinity. So there would be my interval notation. Okay, the rest of these problems we're going to work on in class, but as long as you guys got these notes down, then you are set to go. Thanks.